people.
Hi there. Oscar Gomez with Health Outreach Partners. I've spoken already this morning, but I'm reading a few things that the Grass Tops leaders that we met yesterday, they asked me to share some thoughts with you all. And it's very similar to what you were saying. We're talking about the power of the Latino vote. And so, you know, we know that our elderly Latinos vote. But what I was thinking about last night, and this is what we want to remind them, is that they're probably, you know, we talk about low information voters. When I think about my parents, they're really well-informed voters, and it's because they've lived through most of these things. They're not just seniors, they're also, some of them are military veterans. They've sent their kids out to war and are waiting for them right now back from Iran. And most people don't think about that, especially not when you think about our aging Latino population. There are also folks that were immigrants at a time when we've got some hostilities right now, but this was way before. My father also came over here with the Bracero program, and he ended up working in the railroads. So we're talking about a population that helped build our infrastructure years ago, never been recognized. Some of them aren't going to get the Social Security because that money is going to somebody else. So anyway, all this to say that it's a really well-informed voter and a really motivated voter. And I think we should take that messages back to our communities and get them out there. Yeah, so those are the issues that came to mind from the group. A couple of questions that came up for me right now that I wanted to ask was, or maybe a response. You know, I'm wondering if to some extent, to what extent, barriers, I work in the area of healthcare and there's many barriers to care. I also think there's barriers to voting and barriers to registration. And I'm not I'm not going the direction of fraud, but I'm thinking transportation. Some folks, you know, to get to the health center stuff, to get to voting and stuff. I make it a point now because my parents had a real difficulty back in the 2004 election. So I fly down from San Francisco a couple days before to make sure they go to vote. Well, now my mom has her whole neighbors ready because myself and a couple others, she has us, and you know, good for her. You know, I'm not going to say no to my mom, but transportation's a problem. You know, most of her neighbors don't have, their kids live way too far, don't have the means to go visit as often. Transportation's an issue. Intimidation's an issue. One of the things that we found in our health needs assessment is that fear and discrimination in some of our communities is it's causing a mental health crisis, and that was expressed by both. By the whole gamut, undocumented, legal status, and even citizens. We don't want to get harassed when we go. And so I think there's also barriers, and it'd be great to look at what some of those barriers to voting are, because I don't think it's just that we don't want to vote. You know, in some cases, people have to, you know, they don't get that time off to go vote, you know, even though it's supposed to be they don't. That's why, same reason why people don't go seek health care. So I'm sorry, I definitely wanted to share some of those thoughts.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, your name again was? Oscar Gomez. Oscar, you have a great point. What I will tell you this is that we as a community, we have limited bandwidth to work on issues. I will concede to you right now, there are 1,000 obstacles that get in the way of Latinos voting. Now, we can focus on determining what those 1,000 obstacles are, or we can invest our energy in just changing the opportunities that people have. So in the state of Nevada and in a variety of other states that we have now, there's about 17 states now offer a process called early voting. There's also many states that offer no excuse or no fault absentee voting, which allows people to vote from home. Absentee voting, those ballots get mailed out to voters up to 45 days before an election. So it gives someone an entire 45 days to be able to fill them out and send them back them for you to come over to your house, to your grandparents' house or your parents' house to say, here, Mom, let's look at your ballot, let's look over it, let's work it out. And in many states now even allow you to mail those ballots in for free, so it doesn't even cost you postage. A state like Nevada, we offer early voting, which for 14 days, for 12 hours throughout the day, anybody can go vote during those days anywhere in the county. And those are at every mall, at grocery stores, at neighborhood centers. So if you're going to go buy your groceries for the weekend, you can go in there and you can go vote at the Smith or the Albertsons or the Safeway or whatever it is that you have for 14 days, 2 weeks before Election Day. So it gives us a lot of new opportunities to be able to vote. People make a family event out of it. When you go to these grocery stores, it's phenomenal, especially for older people. They have centers there that while you're waiting in line, they'll give you your flu shot. They'll fill out your prescription forms. So while you're waiting in line to go vote, they're providing you all these other services that someone would have done anyways going to their local grocery store. And I think what we need to do is figure out a way how we expand those programs to be available in more states and more often, because we've already seen them in about 17 states and they're working. And so let's not focus on the problems that exist. Let's say, hey, there are solutions. We know there are problems. Let's just put that to the side. Here are some solutions that can really help us and increase turnout. I would tell you that in Las Vegas, 60% of the people vote before Election Day. Before Election Day, that election's already been decided because people are voting early. It's so convenient. It's so easy. It puts it in your neighborhoods. You have to worry less about transportation, and you have a longer period of time to work with it. So that's what I would challenge you on, that as a community, we need to go to our Secretary of States and our local county board of elections and say, we want early voting in our community. We want it available this way, and we want better absentee voting laws so that our people have a better chance of voting, not have to worry about the discrimination, not have to worry about the transportation, not have to worry about any of these other obstacles that come up. And that if we focus our energies on that and change the landscape, that it will really, these statistics that Mark was talking about will increase dramatically. It's phenomenal to me. We look at the state that has the highest percentage of voting, and that is the state of Oregon. And they're all mail ballot voting.
Live and learn.
Yep.
Live and learn. Okay, we have another question here.
Hello, my name is Jorge Aguilar. I'm a legislative fellow with Senator Reed's office. My question was, I guess...
Reed from Nevada?
Yes, sir.
Right on.
Yeah.
My question was, I guess, just to go a little more in depth to what Oscar asked. I understand that this is a summit particularly targeting for older and elderly Latinos, but as a young Latino, how can we mobilize the young, recent, newly registered voters and the low poverty-stricken areas here in the United States?
Yeah, on behalf of themselves, on behalf of their grandparents and their parents. How can we mobilize them? Any ideas?
Let me say
Mark and then Andres. Yeah.
Well, I think this is always going to be a challenge because you're always going to have a whole new group of young people turning 18 between presidential cycles, for example, or between any two big elections. So this is going to have to be a constant effort. Prior to coming to the Pew Hispanic Center, I used to be at the Center for Information and Research on Civic Learning and Engagement, or CIRCLE, and we studied civic engagement of young people, particularly voting in the United States. Many things can help to get out the vote and get people registered. We found that some of the most important things that mattered was actually having a friend-to-friend or family member to family member encourage somebody to get registered, encourage somebody to get out to vote. But it's nothing that's going to be sort of a silver bullet that's going to solve this right away. It's going to have to be a continuing effort, and every election cycle, particularly for young Latinos, this is going to be something that's going to have to be reinitiated and started over again and done intensely because we have so many new young people who've never voted before. And frankly, for young people, figuring out where to register, figuring out where to vote, because many of them move around, they face a number of challenges which just make it more difficult to figure out how to actually get involved electorally in their communities.
I will agree with Mark, what he said. The only thing that I will add is that, again, we're at a point now where Latinos aren't the fastest growing minority group in America. We are now the largest minority group in America. And with our growth, with the time that exists here, we also, and the maturity, we also have to begin to take responsibility amongst ourselves. We cannot continue to rely on other people to mobilize us as a community, and we have to identify opportunities to mobilize ourselves. Having said that, I will tell you this, that there are other constituency groups and other ideological factors that are genius at this. And it's every election cycle, and they don't worry about candidates, and they don't worry about who the nominees are going to be. They rally around issues, and they identify an issue that's going to appeal to the constituency they're trying to get, in your case, young voters. So whether that is the DREAM Act, whether that is entrance requirements at universities, whether that is a variety of different things that we can find, is to identify issues that resonate that particular election cycle, because Mark's right, they change every election cycle, and put some of these ballot initiatives, put some of these issues on the ballot so that it can resonate to that constituency group, and we can mobilize those Latinos out. It's fundamentally easier to put a ballot initiative on a state than it is to find the right candidate that's going to mobilize all people. And so I would offer that to you as a suggestion as well.